I'm Chuck Myron.
And I'm his wife, Taryn Myron.
And we're married to Saturdays
Married
here
to
again.
Saturdays.
All right.
Welcome
week 2.
to week 2.
Yeah. Well, week 1 was eventful, shall we say.
Yes, it was eventful, it was shocking, but all in a good way. And everybody knows what I consider the biggest game of the week, Florida State, with the incredible upset over Alabama, 31-17. Nobody expected that, myself included.
Well, it happened, and so what was the key? Why do you think it happened?
Well, I think there were several reasons. I feel that Alabama was not prepared. I don't know if you've seen, or any of you out there have seen, the posts from Alabama before the game in the summer. They said they were going to visit a high school team in Tallahassee in week 1. Well, first of all, we showed we're not that high school team. We beat them by 14. So I think they weren't prepared maybe as well as they should have been. So I think that's one reason. I think the other reason is this is as we all saw last week, this is a completely different Florida State team than last year. This is not the team that went 2-10. Of course, everyone's talking about Tommy Castellanos. I knew he was good because he almost beat us in 2023 when he played for Boston College. However, I didn't know he was that good. So I really think the match between him and new offensive coordinator Gus Malzahn is almost like a match made in heaven, almost like a marriage. But also, we just had a lot of new players on both sides of the ball. Everyone was, myself was kind of concerned and skeptical about Tony White, the new defensive coordinator, and how he was going to handle things. And he did a great job as well, him and his defensive staff and the players on both sides of the ball. We just came out, we were ready to play.
Well, are they married to Saturdays now? I tell you about that marriage of Malzahn and Castellanos. I mean,
I think so.
It was really impressive. Look, and we talked about last week learning, going back to school. I think we learned a lot.
Yes.
There's still, I think, a lot to be learned about. Okay, what happens now? Does Florida State return to a contending type team? Does Alabama fall back? How far do they fall back? So I think, there were some questions certainly answered. Florida State answered the bell,
yes,
right,
they sure
in
did.
this one. But I think there's still some things that we got to find out about both of those teams. And
yes.
Speaking of finding things out, of course, Tennessee, with a resounding 19-point win over Syracuse in the opener in Atlanta, and Joey Aguilar, a very nice debut. The offense was humming, almost, well, not quite the way it was in 2022 under Hendon Hooker, but a little bit better than we've seen the last couple of years. A lot better, I think. And so that certainly has me optimistic, and working in with the new receivers, the new running back, the new line. The defense, I think, looked pretty good up front, but now with some injury concerns in the secondary, I'm a little worried about that as we look ahead, not necessarily to East Tennessee State. That's the opponent this week for Tennessee, but to Georgia in week 3.
Well, remember, we're going to focus on East Tennessee State right now.
Well, we'll get to those games: East Tennessee State versus Tennessee, East Texas A&M versus Florida State. We'll get to those in a moment, but first, I want to talk about some of the other big games that we saw in week 1 and the other lessons learned coming out of that.
There were some big games this past weekend. It was really exciting.
As a ratings bonanza, first of all, for TV.
Yes.
That Texas-Ohio State game. Of course, Ohio State coming away with the 14-7 victory. And I think it's tempting to draw more conclusions from that game than we really should, because think about it. So there were 2 4th-and-1 plays in that game.
Mm-hmm.
Texas had one at Ohio State's 1-yard line, and Ohio State had one at Texas's 1-yard line. Ohio State gave the ball to their running back. He got in. Texas had Arch try and get it in there. He did not. That was the difference in the game. It was really 2 plays from 1 yard out for both teams.
For sure. And I think that we didn't see that Ohio State is a great dominant team yet, despite what others might say. But I think they did enough to win. And I think that's a lot of what they did last season as well. They did enough to win. So we'll see how the season plays out for Ohio State. I still have a lot of questions about them.
Well, I would caution you on trying to crown, I think, Ohio State just yet, because first of all, obviously a long way to go, but also, again, 2 plays.
Mm-hmm.
If those 2 plays had gone differently, again, just 2 plays, we would have a much different narrative about Arch Manning right now. We would be able to say, hey, Arch went into the defending national champions, the house in the shoe, and beat them if 2 plays go differently. And we would say, well, what's wrong with Ohio State, you know? So really, the margin is so slim between those teams.
Mm-hmm.
Really, as we thought it would be going into the game, it was more or less a pick'em. So I don't know that we really learned that much, other than both teams have a defense, right?
Yes, great defenses for both teams. Again, there's still a lot of questions for both Ohio State and Texas, and I agree with you. We're not ready to crown Ohio State yet. We're going to see how the season goes.
Couple other big games last week. We saw Miami with a big win over Notre Dame, and we saw LSU go into Clemson's Death Valley and come away with a win.
Well, we knew the Tigers were going to win that game. Just which Tigers?
Yeah, exactly. Well, LSU restored the roar, I think, for them and for Brian Kelly, finally getting that first week monkey off his back.
Yes.
And so Garrett Nussmeier looking pretty good.
He did.
At quarterback. And then for Miami, Carson Beck.
The transfer from Georgia.
Yes. So a guy with a national championship pedigree, now leading Miami, replacing Cam Ward, a number 1 overall pick. But Miami did not have quite the signature win that the last year that they got just now.
Right, that's correct. And I think, as we all saw last year, Miami kind of fell off at the end of the season. So if things keep going well for Miami, things keep going well for Florida State, what an amazing matchup that's going to be later on this season.
That's one to look forward to.
Yes. But congratulations to Miami, and it's hard for me to say that as a Florida State fan, but they represented the ACC very well last weekend.
Any other results from last weekend stand out to you?
The ones that stood out to me actually was the Boise State-South Florida game.
I was going to say that.
South Florida went in and they just annihilated Boise State. We were back to school last week, and we don't know how any of these teams are going to look. But to see the beatdown that South Florida put on Boise State was really incredible. And they got a great game this week coming up on Saturday against Florida. Florida had Long Island University last week, so obviously not a test. We didn't even know that was a school, or even a football school. Who knew? So it's going to be a great test for both the Bulls and the Gators. Great in-state game.
Well, yeah, so think about that game. So you had Boise State coming east into the humidity.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have humidity quite like they do in Tampa,
Correct.
Up in Idaho. And, it was a different, environment. And we're talking 18 to 22-year-olds. That can be intimidating, even though you're not talking about a raucous on-campus type atmosphere.
Sure.
It was still, you're playing in an NFL stadium there in Tampa, and so I wonder how much of that played into it. I wonder how much of that home field that USF had really made a difference.
That's a great observation, Chuck. It'll be interesting to see how Boise State recovers as well.
Well,
they've got a game, I believe, Friday?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think, look, that's the thing for an FCS team, or not an FCS team, a group of 5 team is 1 loss, and your season's pretty much done in terms of winning the national championship. It's almost like it used to be all across the FBS. Now in that group of 5, they. I think Boise State
most likely out.
Yeah, most likely out, and I think that's a tough situation for them. So I think it will be interesting to see how they recover. But in terms of national championship type football and playoff implications, USF Florida stands a lot. Not necessarily for USF, although they could be that group of 5 team this year, but especially for Florida, because that suddenly, all of a sudden, looms as a big test.
Mm-hmm. And Florida's got a difficult schedule again this year, just like they had last year.
Yeah. So that one will be 4:15 SEC Network. Let's take a look at some of the other games we got coming up this week.
Let's take a look.
All right. Well, might as well start with well, we mentioned our own games, of course, Tennessee and East Tennessee State. That one is going to be on ESPN Plus at 3:30.
And that has a special meaning for you, Chuck.
Well,
Tell
it
our
does.
audience.
It does. I went to East Tennessee State. Of course, grew up rooting for Tennessee, as all in East Tennessee must. So kind of a dual relationship right there with those two schools. But obviously Tennessee is not going to be pushed around by East Tennessee State, and neither is Florida State going to be pushed around by East Texas
Yes,
State.
that's correct. Again, an easier game for Florida State.
But what are you looking for? Is there anything that you want to see that you didn't quite see in that opener?
I want to see if they can continue the momentum. And this may be a good game for some of our backups to get in, our second stringers, and get some playing time, because you never know what if somebody gets hurt. So I'm looking forward to possibly seeing Brock Glenn playing as our QB2.
Well, I think for Tennessee, you want to just keep that offensive rhythm moving, make sure that that engine continues to hum, and then is that secondary ready? Obviously they're not going to be tested, but they've got a guy who's been in some situations in Cade McNamara. He's the starting quarterback for East Tennessee State. He was at Michigan before,
That's right.
and then actually competed with J.J. McCarthy, who's now the starting quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings.
Right.
So, he's certainly been in, pressure type situations that like we've seen at Neyland. So
he's got that big game experience.
So, while we're not expecting great things, I think it's enough of a credible test for Tennessee's secondary to just see if they can gel, get together, maybe hopefully get Jermon McCoy back for the Georgia game. But even if they don't, get some reps in, get ready for what could be the biggest test of the year.
Absolutely.
All right, so not just those kind of games on the schedule. By the way, Florida State to East Texas A&M, noon, ESPN Plus, I believe. No, ACC Network.
ACC Network.
Got to find it on the
We will be watching that.
Yes. A few other games coming up this week.
Great.
Yeah, well, let's take a look here.
Yes.
And in the noon window, ESPN Illinois Duke.
I'm really interested in this game.
Yeah, don't sleep on this one, because
tune into that game.
Illinois under Brett Bielema, of course, went toe-to-toe with South Carolina and Shane Beamer. They had some words exchanged.
Literally toe-to-toe.
Yeah, last year. So, and a lot of dark horse predictions for the Big Ten, maybe Illinois as a potential sleeper playoff team.
Potentially.
And
could Illinois be this year's Indiana from last year?
Well, they both start with I.
Yes.
But Duke, I don't think they have that kind of pedigree, but they are hosting that game. It will be in Durham. So Illinois with a credible road test against another Power 4 conference school. So it's worth looking at and seeing.
It's absolutely worth watching.
Because if Illinois, right, if they blow them out, if they are able to handle Duke, I think that says a lot about their chances. If they struggle with Duke, well,
I think it'll tell us a lot about Illinois, regardless of the result of the game.
Right. So you've also got in that same window, Iowa State. That one's going to be on
rivalry
Fox.
Game.
Yeah, and it's always fun every year. Again, neither a team that you think of as a national title threat, but it's a fun game, and in that Big 12, hey, anybody could win that.
That's
Big 12.
Right.
Iowa State
certainly can win the Big 12.
And they've already got a Big 12 win under their belt.
That's right.
From Dublin.
That's
against Kansas State. So. And Kansas State, a team that was getting some mention as a potential Big 12 champ.
Correct.
So I think the stakes are a little bit higher. It's tough to think about, right? Because you've got the 12-team era where is that line? We don't really know exactly where it is in terms of could Iowa, contend for a playoff spot.
Right.
I'm not really that sold, but certainly Iowa State could, and I think that is part of the intrigue of that game.
Absolutely.
So, also in that window, you have FIU Penn State. Let's see.
If Penn State doesn't win, there's something wrong.
Right. Connecticut, Syracuse, Baylor, SMU.
Now that could be an interesting game.
I think that one held some intrigue.
Yes.
I think that one. Baylor obviously took the loss to Auburn by 2 touchdowns in their opener, but SMU really. They were the regular season ACC champs last year. A lot of money going into that program. Yes. Kevin Jennings. So I think and that's an old school Southwest Conference rivalry. I think there could be some bad blood there.
Yes.
So something to be intrigued by. So that one on the CW at noon.
At noon.
If you want to tune into that. 3:30 window, of course, the big one in that window is actually a 4:15 start, as we mentioned, USF and Florida.
Great game to watch.
But also, talk about SEC teams. We're trying to separate themselves from the pack. Mississippi goes on the road to Kentucky.
Now, that's going to be an interesting game, I think. It's an early conference game, and, Lane Kiffin has a lot of high expectations in Ole Miss, so we'll see what happens there.
Well, high expectations, but no Jackson Dart.
True. Now he's in the NFL.
He's with the Giants.
Right.
Had a very impressive preseason. So, we'll see if they can capably replace him.
Yes.
Then Oklahoma State, Oregon. Oklahoma State, a team that, have they regressed a little bit? It seems like it.
Sure, they have. Now, they had Ollie Gordon last year, who is also now in the NFL. With the Dolphins, of course. But I don't know. I think this is going to be interesting because Oklahoma State is one of those teams we don't know much about.
We don't know much about them, but how much do we really know about anybody?
Well, that's true.
Oregon
again, we don't know much about Oregon either this year.
Well, Oregon was really the class of college football for most of the regular season last year.
Yes.
So obviously no Dylan Gabriel.
Correct.
But I think you would be hard pressed to see them drop off that far. And they are going to be playing this one in Eugene.
Okay.
So I think
advantage for Oregon there.
Yeah. So fringe upset potential, but I'm not sold on that. Hey, think about this one, okay? 3:30 Fox, Colorado. Bouncing back from that Georgia Tech game, hosting Delaware. So you've got not exactly a challenging opponent, but it's something. Colorado has to get up off the mat.
Yes, they do.
They haven't always done that in the Deion Sanders era. So.
And one game we forgot to talk about last week was Colorado and Georgia Tech. What a great game that was! Congratulations to Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
For pulling off that win in Boulder.
Right, going on the road and doing that, and that Haynes King.
Yes.
He is a player.
Yes.
Do not sleep on Haynes King.
That's right.
Especially in that ACC race, which, think about
now is wide open.
You've got Clemson, Miami, and Florida State, who could all be heavies, and Georgia Tech. Where does Georgia Tech fit? In that, are they a fit with those other 3 schools, or do you think there may be a step behind?
Is SMU in that category as well?
SMU, of course, yeah. So, it's that conference really sort of up for grabs at this point.
Yes. I'm sorry. Back to the Colorado game.
Well, no, I don't think there's too much to say about Delaware and Colorado, other than Colorado got to get up off the mat, respond. Play a credible game, but I wouldn't be surprised to see them struggle a little bit. I don't think they will drop this one.
No,
but I wouldn't be shocked if they're slow to get out of the gate.
We'll find out.
Then looking ahead to the night games,
we got a big night game.
Yeah, of course, the headliner there, Michigan and Oklahoma.
Right, College Game Day is going to be there on Saturday. This is a big one, I think, for both teams. Both teams, I don't think, are expected to compete for the national championship this year. They might be both outside contenders to get into the playoffs. So, and it's a meeting between two big conferences. You know, you got a Big Ten school, you got an SEC school. I'm really interested to see this game. I think it's going to be closer than people think.
A lot of people are high on Oklahoma's offense coming into this season. Obviously struggled mightily with injuries last year.
Yes.
So a healthy, competent Oklahoma squad, be an SEC type contender.
Mm-hmm.
And could a reloaded Michigan squad with Bryce Underwood as a true freshman quarterback, could they be a contender in the Big Ten? I think you have in those two teams, teams that were obviously took a step back last year, but I think both of them could take a step forward this year, and this game I think would go a long way toward doing that for both.
Great test for both teams. You'll definitely want to watch this one.
It's kind of the game is sort of this odd undercard to Texas and Ohio State, right? The two arch rivals, Oklahoma, Texas, and Michigan, Ohio State. Oh. And I
didn't think about that.
Yeah. So it's a really interesting undercard, and obviously there's not that much to take away from Texas and Ohio State because again, remember 2 plays. That was really all that separated those two teams.
2 plays.
But it'll be interesting to see if we can see some trends develop.
Yes.
SEC Big Ten bragging rights on the line.
Yes.
Which could be a story as we think about who gets at-large bids.
Correct.
In the playoffs. So that's obviously number 1 with a bullet there. But you also have Arizona State, Mississippi State.
Again, a really interesting non-conference game for both teams. We're talking about Arizona State possibly winning the Big 12. Mississippi State is not a great SEC team, so Arizona State's really got to come out and prove themselves.
Are they? Or maybe,
we both picked them to win the Big 12.
Well, I actually wanted to talk about your statement that Mississippi State is not a great SEC team. Obviously not in the upper echelon.
Correct.
By any stretch of the imagination, but a credible SEC team. And if you are Arizona State coming in on the road, again, we think about going from no humidity to humidity in the early portion of the year. That can be a shock to the system, even if you're used to desert heat.
Yes.
So, Arizona State is certainly a Big 12 contender again, but I'm not so sure that this is going to be any sort of easy cupcake for them.
Agreed. I agree.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's a cupcake for sure. I think Arizona State, like I said, really has to go out and prove themselves.
Yeah, I do too. And an opportunity then to have a feather in their cap of an SEC win. That means something. So another interconference matchup, I should say. Boston College, Michigan State.
Interesting matchup there.
2 teams that, Bill O'Brien, I think, 2nd year now at Boston College, and Tommy Castellanos, he actually ran him off.
That's right.
So, can they kind of get a foothold in that ACC? Same thing for Michigan State, trying to really rebuild the program, which hasn't been the same since Mel Tucker.
True.
So I should say Arizona State, Mississippi State, 7:30 ESPN 2. Michigan, Oklahoma, 7:30 ABC. Boston College, Michigan State, 7:30 NBC, and also at 7:30 ACC Network, Vanderbilt, Virginia Tech.
Now this is a really interesting game. Virginia Tech just lost to an SEC opponent last week in South Carolina. So how are they going to do against Vanderbilt?
Diego Pavia, I'm sure, has some ideas.
Yes.
Yes.
He always does.
Right. This is one that we think about. Okay, conference bragging rights. Again, at-large bids. When you build up a resume as a conference, this is the type of game that you want to see go in your column and not the other team's column.
Correct.
So I think this is important in that regard. And, look, Vanderbilt, we think of, they beat Alabama last year. Of course, that's now more common than it used to be.
Yes.
But a credible team in the SEC. Virginia Tech kind of on the fringes of credibility, maybe in the ACC. I would think, though, Virginia Tech does not want to go 0-2.
Let's hope not. Let's hope not. I'm sure they don't want to go that way.
So, but they gave South Carolina quite a scare, and South Carolina is thought of as a contending team. So this could be interesting between Vanderbilt and Virginia Tech.
Intriguing game to watch.
And then that's really it until, of course, there are other games, but none that jump out at you until late. You've got San Diego State and Washington State. That one will be a Pac-12 matchup starting next year.
Yes.
And then Stanford BYU. So
now that could be an interesting game.
ACC, Big 12. But again, it's one of those ones that you think of for resume ability. ACC and Big 12
as a conference
may be directly competing against each other for at-large berths.
Yes.
So we got the Big 10 and the SEC in sort of one class, ACC and Big 12 in another. So again, resume building wins as a conference means something.
This is an important game for both conferences.
All right. So any other things to think about as we head into week 2?
Week 2 is going to be an interesting follow-up week to what we learned in week 1.
Well, we're all still learning.
Yes.
It's still early days in the season. So, well, let's enjoy it and keep it right here. We'll be here throughout the season.
Yes.
We're married to Saturdays.
Join us
after all.
Join us every week. And please like, comment, and subscribe.